Coach, and I would ask you this on Saturday night after the win, but you guys got to be feeling pretty well, got a lot of momentum going into the WAC tournament this week. So how are you guys feeling as a team? You know, obviously, very important week for you guys.
Yeah, as you get towards the end of the season, you know, all over the country, every staff, every coach in America is talking about, you know, trying to be in position to play your best when the games matter most, which is obviously this time of the year. You know, and I'm no different. We've talked about it previously to today. I do think that we have a chance to play our best. You know, time will tell if we will get it on the court or not. But, you know, analytically, the last two games have graded out to be two of our better overall performances, which certainly makes us feel good, you know, heading into practice today and then getting on the plane on Wednesday. But, you know, we'll see. It'll play out the way it plays out.
You said a lot of times this season you guys have not felt like you've played your best basketball. Do you still feel that way and feel like obviously that's going to come out this week or next week?
We're hopeful. You know, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. I don't know how we'll play, but I'm hoping that, you know, we'll have a conversation after this weekend, and I'll be able to, you know, answer that and say that, yeah, we did play our best this weekend. But until, you know, we play these games and they unfold the way they will, I'm not sure. I mean, at this point, I would say that, you know, the game against Utah Valley at home, we were awfully well. And, you know, when you make 15 threes, the game's a lot easier. And then certainly we out in Hawaii against Davidson and Miami, you know, we played awfully well on a neutral court and had some big wins. But I would say at this point, you know, those are probably the games that stick out in my mind. But, again, we're hopeful that the best is yet to come.
Coach, what areas of your game do you think you could be better at this point?
You know, we're always trying to nitpick. We're always trying to break our film down and work on our individual games, both offensively and defensively, and certainly collectively as a unit to try to mesh better and be on the same page. I would think at this point, you know, offensively, we're still continuing to work on our spacing and our flow into what we're trying to do on each and every possession. And then, you know, we have at times been a little loose and careless with the ball. I thought in the second half against UTRGV, that showed up a little bit, and we threw it around and got sloppy there in the second half. And then obviously, you know, free throws has been our nemesis, you know, all year long. You know, we've been really working on it and trying to get as much muscle memory and reps as we can, but, you know, you can't simulate, you know, the game and the pressure and the fatigue and all the things that go into, you know, making those when they really count. But hopefully we'll feel good about our free throws heading into Vegas.
You have two potential Players of the Year in this conference on your team. How does that make you feel?
Makes me a better coach. You know, I've always said you know, the coaches are all better when you got really good players, and I'm no different. It's been a luxury to have both of them, to coach both of those young men along with our whole team. And fortunately, like I've said earlier, you know, I think the votes are already in. You can't vote for your own players, so I certainly wouldn't have wanted to have to do that. To me, it's like picking a favorite child. So, again, they've had tremendous years. I'll be shocked if they're both not first-team All-WAC.
Would you like to see them get co-players of the year if possible, if the votes look that way?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think about it too much. You know, it's going to play out the way it's going to play out. I have no control over it. And, you know, regardless of the outcome of that, you know, I think everyone will acknowledge that they are two of the better players in the league, you know, if not the top, you know, 3 or 4 for sure combined. They both have had great years, and we're hoping that they'll play their best here this week.
Seems like obviously at the one seed, you're gonna you know get the favorable bracket draw. It seems like the bracket kind of got in your guys' favor a little bit. Obviously, getting Chicago State and probably going to get a Seattle team in the semifinals. And I know that you know they beat you guys last time, but do you feel like the bracket came out favorable to you guys, or?
Again, you know, it's easy to say that now heading into the week, but at the end of the day, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen in tournament play. It's one and done. In 40 minutes of basketball, you know, we're unlike the NBA where they play the best out of, you know, 5 and 7 games, where in college it's one game, and not the best team doesn't always win necessarily. So I don't get too caught up in that. We'll prepare for each and every game like we always will, and certainly have our eye on the future at the same time, our potential matchups that could come into play, you know, on the semis and hopefully the finals. But you know, the other thing that sticks out to me is, you know, the 1 seed doesn't get that much favorable treatment in this league. the way they have spread the bracket out, where we play 6 o'clock instead of the early game, which would give the 1 seed more rest, preparing for the semifinal game. I'm not sure why they do that. I can't think of any reason for them to set up the bracket like that. And then in the semifinal game, if we're fortunate enough to win the first game, we play the second of the 2 semifinal games at 8:30, which again makes no sense to me at all, that they would try to not give the 1 seed any sort of help, if you will, because in most conferences, they want their best team to be representing them in the NCAA tournament. So that'll be just a slight distraction for us. Certainly we're not going to talk about it as a team, but at the same time, when you talk about, the favorable bracket, I look at it from a completely different perspective.
Obviously, you guys just played Chicago State a few weeks ago. Obviously, they're coming off their first win on Saturday. They're going to come in with a lot of momentum too, and obviously they're playing for their season not to end. I don't know if you've taken a look at them. I'm sure they're not doing much different than a couple weeks ago. What do you feel like you guys need to do a lot better than that first game or the game a couple weeks ago? I'm assuming you admitted it too. Better job on Sims.
Right. Well, they've only played 2 games, since we've played them, so I can't imagine they've done too much differently scheme-wise. But like I said in the post game, I complimented Coach Dildy, their staff, and their players because of how hard they've continued to play in each and every game. And they're in their games until a certain point in the game when it usually turns. And it didn't surprise me that they won, to be honest with you. I just telling our staff that I anticipated them winning that final game because of how well they were playing, how they were continuing to fight, and it was their last home game of the year. And I was happy for them at the same time. But hopefully, maybe it'll help us a little bit to get our own players' attention that, hey, they're feeling good about themselves. They're coming off a win, and we certainly can't take them for granted.
A lot of the guys, obviously have been through the tournament experience before, but there are a lot of guys who haven't been through that. So what do you kind of tell the newer guys, obviously you're going to want the older guys to lean on them. What do you kind of tell the younger guys about the tournament experience?
Well, all we're going to talk about is stay focused and stay in the moment and don't get caught up in the results. Fortunately, we've played in some big stages. We've played in some great road environments. We've played on national TV with a lot riding on the games, and we've played pretty well. So we'll draw upon those experiences, but certainly the stakes are higher this week, and we're going to talk about that, and they're going to know what we're playing for and what's at stake and what it means to continue to advance and hopefully be in a position to win a championship by Saturday night. But at the end of the day, these guys are athletes, and they've performed on stages prior to this week, and hopefully they'll use their experience to help them get it through.
Do you feel like there's another team out there that's playing really well going in a tournament other than you guys?
I think a lot of teams are. I think Utah Valley comes to mind. They were really good when they beat us up there, and then they went to Grand Canyon and easily could have won that game, which we all know what a hard venue it is to play down there. And then they beat a good Seattle team pretty handily in their last game. So I'd assume that they're feeling really good. But again, we all understand how this works. Is postseason is another animal. It's one and done, and it's March Madness, and crazy things happen all over the country. In every tournament, there's upsets galore. There's a kid getting a hot hand and leading them to victory. It's a team struggling, to shoot the ball. You just hope as a coach that you play, your best. You play your style, and everyone does what they do individually, and no one tries to, go off the reservation and start to do things that they normally haven't done in games in the past. And I'm pretty confident that our team will do that.
Is this team in its best physical shape, you believe, going into this tournament?
I think so. It's a feel thing, and we really, it's important to us to monitor them individually and certainly as a unit of how we are health-wise, both physically and mentally, and then certainly our legs. And that's as much mental to me as it is physical. And so we really watched our practice length and our physicality segments within those practices, and I think we're in a really good place. I think we're in great shape, cardiovascular speaking, and I think our bodies are in pretty good shape as well.
You've got 10 guys you've been playing pretty regular. That's an advantage for you because you've been doing that much of the season. Now, when it counts, these 10 guys you can readily count on are in the condition you're talking about for this tournament.
Yeah, and that's always in the back of our mind throughout the regular season. Certainly, you're trying to win each and every game, and they're really important to all of us. But at the same time, you know, in the back of your mind, you're setting your team up for 3 games in 3 days, and obviously, the teams that have more depth have a little bit of advantage that way in terms of you know, staying away from the weary legs, and then certainly any foul issues that would come up, and there's going to be, you know, foul problems in each and every game that's probably played in this upcoming tournament. So we feel pretty good about our depth heading into this week.
A mature team that doesn't look too far ahead, just one game at a time, because I know that's the staff's job.
Yeah, I think so. They've been pretty good about that. You know, we try to keep them focused, like I said earlier, on the task at hand. And this weekend, certainly there'll be a little more pressure, and how they internalize that will be on an individual basis. But for us, you know, it's going to be business as usual in terms of our preparation and trying to get our players in the best position possible to win each and every game.